Is Dana, are you on the line?
I'm here, thank you.
Great, I'll turn it over to you now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me this afternoon. My name is Dana. I work for the City of Sanibel in the Natural Resources Department, and I'm here to give you an overview of one of our public engagement programs, which is the Sanibel Communities for Clean Water program. Next slide, please. Before I get into the program, I just wanted to give you just a brief overview about the city. So since about 2008, the Sanibel City Council has placed water quality improvement as their top priority, both on island, on a state and regional and federal level. And so this has allowed us to come up and develop and create a lot of water quality projects and programs. Next slide. One program is the Sanibel Comprehensive, or one project that we did was the Sanibel Comprehensive Nutrient Management Plan, which began in 2012 and wrapped up in 2017. So in phase one of the plan, we assessed all existing water quality data, calculated nutrient loading by land use class, assessed our nutrient sources on the island, and then identified data gaps and data needs. In phase two, we developed Sanibel-specific nutrient runoff coefficients to more accurately estimate Sanibel's nutrient loads, and then reassess the loading estimates. In phase three, we used this phase to help fill in some of those data gaps. So we did groundwater flow and monitoring. And then we also did surface water quality sampling in community lakes across the island. And then phase four of the plan, we synthesized all the information gathered in the previous phases and used that to identify nutrient loading hotspots on Sanibel. And based on those hotspots, we developed a list of projects and to implement to address those nutrient loading hotspots and also to help meet our nutrient reduction targets for the TMDL that was issued to the Sanibel Slough. So if you look at the map that I have on here, those red blobs that you see on the map, those are Sanibel's nutrient loading hotspots that was identified in the management plan. Those hotspots are associated with golf courses, communities that use reclaimed water for irrigation, and areas where former wastewater package plants existed. Next slide, please. So one of the projects that came out of the Comprehensive Nutrient Management Plan was the Sanibel Communities for Clean Water program. So a little bit of background, we initially sampled a total of 72 lakes, ponds, and stormwater collection systems across the island with the help of the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation. Next slide. The primary goals of this project were to develop baseline water quality data for each water body that was sampled, and then rank each community from the most impaired water body to the least impaired. So most impaired would have a ranking of number 1. The least impaired would have a ranking of number 72. Then based on the data collected, we wanted to make best management practice recommendations for each individual community that we believed would work best for their particular community. Next slide. So just to give you a very, very quick overview of some of the sampling results. So in 2016, 87% of the lakes that we sampled across the island exceeded the numeric nutrient criteria for total phosphorus, and 87% of the lakes exceeded the numeric nutrient criteria for total nitrogen. Next slide, please. So we've continued on with this program. So we've done sampling on a biennial basis. So this is the summary of the 2018 sampling results. So in 2018, we added 6 additional sampling sites for a total of 78. TSI scores increased an average of 7.5% compared to 2016. 69% of lakes were above the numeric nutrient criteria for total phosphorus, and 100% of the lakes sampled were above the numeric nutrient criteria for total nitrogen. we are in the process right now of doing our 2020 sampling, so we'll be updating the website again here shortly. Next slide. So all that information was taken and integrated into an interactive website, which you can visit at www.sanibelcleanwater.org. So with this website, it allows residents to examine their role in protecting water quality and allows them to see how their actions can help improve the health of water bodies within their community. Next slide, please. So when you visit the website, you're able to search for your community, or residents are able to search for their community. They can do it by either typing it in the search bar. They can click on the dot that hovers above their community on the map there, or the communities and their rankings scroll along the bottom. Next slide, please. So every sampling site has its own dedicated web page on the Sanibel Clean Water Communities for Clean Water website. I like to use this particular community, Sandpoint, their condo association, just because they are not so much for their poor ranking, but because it's a community where there's a lot of room for improvement. So when you visit the community's webpage, you get their ranking. So this one ranked number 6 out of 72 in 2016. They'll be able to view photos of the water body in their community. Next slide, please. And then when they scroll down, they get this information here. So in the top left corner, you can see a data summary chart. Next slide. So I wanted to zoom in on this to show you. So for people that may be visiting the website, like our citizens here on Sanibel that may not be very familiar with water quality and the different parameters that are sampled, we created this feature where if you hover your mouse over a particular parameter, it gives you a very basic definition of what that parameter is, just to help educate the public on the different parameters that are being sampled in the program. Next, please. And then just to go back to this, so in the bottom right-hand corner, we also have these very basic graphs here to visually show people the water quality results for their site, and then to show them how their community ranks or compares to state criteria as well as the Sanibel average. And then for this community, and then for each community, we give what we believe to be the top 5 best management practice recommendations that we think would work best for their community. So the number 1 here, just to go over some of the examples, this is a community that uses reclaimed water for irrigation. So we created a reuse fertilizer calculator where communities on reuse water can go to our website, plug in how many gallons of reuse water they apply, and it generates a number that tells them how much nitrogen and phosphorus is being applied to their landscapes. And that way they can factor that into their fertilizer management program. Also, I'm not sure if you caught this in the photos that were on the previous slide, but they had sod all the way down to the water's edge in this particular community. And so the second recommendation is just a reminder that we do have a strict fertilizer ordinance that prohibits the application of nitrogen and phosphorus within 25 feet of a water body, and that they should be adhering to those regulations. Next slide, please. Just a quick, some other features that on the website, some other web pages include our About page, which just gives a summary of the program. We have a solutions page that provides about 15 or so best management practices, and it gives a little description about each best management practice. There's a resources page that has some additional information. So if someone was interested in a particular best management practice, they could go to our resources page, and there's a hyperlink that would take them to literature that discusses some of those best management practices in greater depth. We have a news page where we can post articles about water quality locally or regionally. And then we have a Get Involved page where citizens can sign up and get alerts from their community. We also have an algae bloom and fish kill reporting page on the website where citizens can report any algae bloom and fish kills, and that gives us a way to get out and interact with the public, take a look at what's going on, and it's a way for us to track these occurrences as they happen. And then we've recently gotten a lot of people reaching out from canal front communities wanting a similar program. So right now we're in the process of developing a clean canals program that will also be attached to this website. Next slide, please. So since the program's inception, we've been fortunate enough to have some of the communities reach out to us and want help improving their water quality or getting some guidance on what kind of practices they should be implementing to help improve the health of the water body in their community. So one of the communities that reached out to us was the Heron's Landing Subdivision. In 2016, it ranked as the #1 most impaired water body on Sanibel. And I'll tell you why. If you look down at the two photos I have on the bottom of the screen, in the 2002 photo, that green water body that you see is actually the discharge lagoons for a wastewater package plant that serviced the Heron's Landing subdivision. So a package plant, for those of you that may not be familiar with those, actually process wastewater on site for a community. So it takes the wastewater, treats it, and then discharges the effluent into an on-site lagoon. And so the lagoon was unlined, and so all of those, so it was allowed to interact with the groundwater. And then the city decommissioned the plant in 2006, and then we've restored the site. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of legacy nutrients left in the sediments and soil surrounding the former site of the package plant. So we got a lot of calls from this community complaining of a lake that looked like chocolate milk, and the particular lake or pond that we're talking about is that long skinny one with the red arrows pointing to. So they would often complain that their lake looked like chocolate milk or it smelled like rotten eggs. So we assisted the community with developing a lake management plan, and the community's main objectives were to reduce hydrogen sulfide odor, increase dissolved oxygen levels, and restore the natural diverse community of flora and fauna within the water body. Some of the best management practices they've implemented to date include hydrogen peroxide treatments that were done in conjunction with the installation of aeration. And right now we're working with them on a pilot project using bold and gold filter media to remove nutrients from the water body. Next slide, please. A condominium that reached out to us on Sanibel called Point Santo. So some of the owners expressed interest in managing their pond in a more environmentally friendly way. And their main objective was to reduce the reliance on pond dyes and algicides. So we got together with them and had some conversations. And to date, some of the best management practices that they've implemented include the installation of 3,000 littoral plantings around their pond. They've installed aeration. They're slowly beginning to replace non-native landscaping on the property with native landscaping to help reduce their reliance on fertilizers. They've cut back their usage of reclaimed water for irrigation, and they employ a technique where they mow away from the pond to ensure that when they're mowing, no grass clippings are getting into the pond. Next slide, please. So just a final thought to leave you all with. So with this program, our hope is that the website will provide citizens with the tools necessary to make informed decisions on water quality, and also hope that it motivates them to participate in our local efforts to improve water quality. And that's it, and I can take questions at this point.
Thank you so much. We already have the questions lined up, so feel free to start answering them right away.
Sure. So the first one, what kind of traffic has the site had so far? So I'll be honest, it hasn't gotten quite the traffic that we would like it to. And so we're trying to figure out different ways to get the word out there and engage the community. We try to get out to as many homeowners association meetings or as we can to talk about their community's water quality and let them know about the website. And then we just and do little workshops to try to engage the community and get them to start using this as a tool. Can this idea be shared? Could this be used as a blueprint for other municipalities? I mean, that's our hope. You know, that's another reason why we're trying to present this at larger forums to give other communities the same idea. And we'd be more than happy to work with any interested communities and let them know, you know, kind of our roadmap that we developed. Thank you, Wynn. How did you cultivate relationships with these communities to get them to use the website? So as I mentioned, a lot of trying to get our foot in the door at HOA meetings. You know, when we get calls about fish kills or algae blooms, going out and meeting with the residents and letting them know that we have this website. And we also put out press releases often about the website. Any suggestions for communities less engaged than Sanibel? I think I wouldn't necessarily less engaged, but I know Sanibel kind of has the air of being this very environmentally conscious community, but certainly everyone has their different reasons for trying to protect water quality or why they want to improve water quality, whether it be for the sake of you know, the ecosystem or the organisms that live in it, to the property values. So that sometimes people that we meet with don't necessarily care about the wildlife or the ecosystem, and what they care about is their property values. So you just have to figure out what's important to them, and then just kind of you know, play off that emotion. And then amazing tool was this website built by staff, contractor, both. How? So we worked with a web designer. We contracted them. We essentially met with them, told them, we gave them a pretty clear description of what we were looking for. And we just happened to choose a web designer, Brian Joseph Studios. That was fantastic. I mean, they pretty much nailed it. So there wasn't much back and forth with our web developer, but we laid the roadmap down for them, and then they took our ideas and generated the website. Let's see. Can you scroll down, please? Certainly available for coaching some people in Bonita Springs. You can always contact, if you want to message me, I can give you my contact information. So the Clean Canals program, it'll be on the, it's not up and running yet. We just got the first kind of beta testing. I got the link today, but it will be, you'll be able to access the Clean Canals program through the Sanibel Communities for Clean Water program. So it'll just be an additional web page on the existing site.
Thank you, Dana. That is wonderful. And any of you that we did not reach answering your questions, feel free to reach out to